आज के कार्यक्रम में मुझे इस किताब की बुक रीडिंग करनी है, मोदी एट 20, और आपको बताया गया है कि बुक इज़ अबाउट ड्रीम्स मीट डिलीवरी। पर मैं आपको रीडिंग के पहले किताब के बारे में कुछ बताना चाहता हूँ कि इस समय किताब लिखा क्यों गया, और इसीलिए लिखा गया कि हमारे इतिहास में ये बहुत माने यूनिक चीज़ है कि कोई पॉलिटिकल ऑफिस कंटिन्यूअसली 20 साल के लिए करे। और ये डिस्टिंक्शन जो है आप जानते हैं कि किसको जाता है, कि इतने इलेक्शन जीतने गुजरात में नेशनल लेवल पे, तो कुछ लोग हम मिलजुल के, हमारे मन में था कि किसी तरीके से हमको इसको रिकग्नाइज करना चाहिए, और जो जिनका सौभाग्य था कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ हम नज़दीक से काम कर पाए, हमारी जो परिप्रेक्ष्य जो है हमें देश के सामने रखना चाहिए। तो इसीलिए दिस इज द रीजन व्हाई दिस बुक वाज पब्लिश्ड एट दिस टाइम। बट इट वाज आल्सो कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि इट इज ऑल पीपल अराउंड, कि मंत्रियों की किताब हो या जो सरकार में शासन में जो काम करते हैं उनकी नज़रिया से लिखे गए। तो यह भी तय किया गया कि वी टेक अ वेरी ब्रॉड एजेंडा, कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज सो मेनी एरिया, देयर इज नॉट अ सिंगल एरिया ही हैज नॉट टच्ड। तो इंस्टेड ऑफ मेकिंग इट एन इन हाउस बुक, हम एक किस्म से इसकी क्राउड सोर्सिंग या नेम सोर्सिंग करें, विच इज वाई यू हैव 20 very prominent people writing in this book along with me. And normally ये तो स्वाभाविक है, बुक रीडिंग में हर लेखक कहता है कि my chapter is very good, चलिए मैं आपको पढ़ा देता हूँ। You are going to get the book, so let me tell you all the many of the chapters are frankly much better than mine. And I actually today not only want to do book reading from my chapter, I want to do book reading from one other chapter for which I have a very special feel. So I want you also to pay attention to that. And वो जो है, that is particularly appropriate for a young audience. Now, जो मैंने तो अभी तक I have written one book, वो भी कोविड के समय में लिखा था। कहीं ऐसे फंक्शन करने का तो वैसे मुझे कोई अवसर तो मिला नहीं। सो दिस इज़ वेरी फ्रैंकली माई फर्स्ट एक्सपीरियंस ऑल्सो एट बुक रीडिंग। सो जब मुझे इन्विटेशन मिला कि बुक रीडिंग करिए, तो आई टोल्ड माई सेल्फ, अच्छा मुझे खड़े होकर पूरा चैप्टर पढ़ना, ये लोग तो बोर हो जाएंगे। सो व्हाट आई डिड, आई टुक फ्रॉम माई चैप्टर 5 or 6 इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स जो मुझे लगा कि आपको इंटरेस्टिंग लगेगा। तो मैं जो है वो 5-6 जो पैराग्राफ जो है मैं आपको पढ़ लेता हूँ, और साथ ही साथ मैं किस्म से आपको कुछ एक्सप्लेनेशन भी देता हूँ। और सबसे पहला पैराग्राफ जो है वो है जब मेरी प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ पहली मुलाकात हुई, ये 2011 में हुई। मैं उस समय चीन में राजदूत था, वो मुख्यमंत्री थे, गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री थे। तो वो उस मीटिंग जो पहली बार जब हम मिले उसका मैं वर्णन करता हूँ। तो मेरे किताब में मैंने ये लिखा है कि अमंग द प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स मेनी एट्रीब्यूट्स, one that stands out is his deep sense of nationalism. This is, of course, intrinsic to his political beliefs, and one very much in evidence when he was chief minister. When I first met him as ambassador in China in 2011, that is what I was referring to, unlike many other chief ministers, he specifically sought a political briefing. I recall his emphasizing that on issues of terrorism and sovereignty, we needed to make sure we spoke with one voice abroad, especially in China. Actually, उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि जो भी मैं कहता हूँ वो 1 मिलीमीटर it should not be different from our national position. This, incidentally, was also my first exposure to his method of working. Among the takeaways was insistence that I should not hesitate to indicate clearly what he should say and equally what he should not say. His letter on return to India, and उनकी आदत अभी भी है कि जब भी वो दौरा करते हैं, he comes back and the people he meets, he will write them a letter, and it is his letter, you can make out. His letter on return to India went beyond the normal appreciation that visitors expressed कि hospitality अच्छा था, protocol अच्छा था. What was different was a pointed mention of my successfully upholding the interests of our country in China. As Prime Minister, it was only to be expected that he would be confronted with national security challenges on a recurring basis and on occasion even as a crisis. When it came to terrorism, especially of a cross-border nature, he has been crystal clear that he would never allow it to be normalized. This determination has shaped our Pakistan policy since 2014. Now, इसी संदर्भ में मैं आपको एक इंसिडेंट और बताना चाहता हूं. इस समय मैं विदेश सचिव बन चुका था. 2015 जनवरी आई हैड बिकम फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने मुझे बुलाया, कहा कि आप नए विदेश सचिव बने हैं तो आप एक सार्क यात्रा करिए कि पड़ोस में अगर आप जो हमारे पड़ोसी जो हैं, प्लीज विजिट ऑल ऑफ देम एंड गेट टू नो देम. तो उन्होंने जाने के पहले मुझे बुलाया और ये इनके इंस्ट्रक्शंस थे. इन हिज पार्टिंग इंस्ट्रक्शंस, प्राइम मिनिस्टर टोल्ड मी, ही सेड, आई हैव ग्रेट कॉन्फिडेंस इन योर एक्सपीरियंस एंड जजमेंट, बट देयर इज वन थिंग यू मस्ट कीप इन माइंड व्हेन यू अराइव इन इस्लामाबाद. ही, Modi, was very different from his predecessors and would neither overlook nor tolerate terrorism. There should never be any ambiguity on this score. So, and insofar as China is concerned, he said, I am very clear, my relationship should be based on mutual respect and mutual sensitivity. So, I started with this chapter. Because first, it is my first meeting with Prime Minister Modi, then Chief Minister Modi. बट ऑल्सो बिकॉज उनकी जो देशभक्ति जो है और आतंकवाद के बारे में जो उनकी सोच जो है, उनकी दृढ़ता जो है, इट इज़ वेरी वेरी क्लियर फ्रॉम दीज टू इंसिडेंट्स. फॉर मी व्हेन पीपल से कि अच्छा फॉरेन पॉलिसी चलाते हैं, कैसे चलाते हैं, व्हाट इज द रिलेशनशिप और हाउ डू यू गेट योर इंस्ट्रक्शंस फ्रॉम प्राइम मिनिस्टर. This is a Prime Minister who is very, very clear on very fundamental issues. And I will say this, if the Prime Minister of the country is clear on the fundamental issues, national interest is served and the country is very clear on what is this issue. A second paragraph that I picked is a paragraph on an event which is very well known now. ये प्रधानमंत्री का अमेरिका का दौरा था, 2014 का दौरा था, और उस समय मैं वहाँ अमेरिका में भारत का राजदूत था. और आप सबको याद तो होगा कि जब वो मैडिसन स्क्वायर गार्डन गए और जो एक किस्म से एक न्यू चैप्टर था हमारे डायस्पोरा पॉलिसी में, तो उसका भी मैं वर्णन करता हूँ. द एवोल्यूशन ऑफ आवर diaspora policy bears the hallmarks of core beliefs and strong care. It is now widely accepted that the Madison Square Garden event on 28 December 2014 was a watershed in that domain. Prime Minister Modi was invited to the United States by President Obama during the congratulatory phone call. And in fact, I reminded Ranjan Ben Ji that phone call was made when he was in Vadodara. The day I called up from there and he was actually going to go on the stage the day the election results was announced. So, my first call on him, this was on June 6th. Thereafter, as ambassador in the US, naturally focused on a possible visit. The Prime Minister brought up the subject of the diaspora, the Indian community, which he described as a great strength of the nation. And I still remember him telling me, he said, more than anybody else, Gujaratis know this, that what a great strength they are. So, but they needed to discover their own voice, and we needed to consolidate their role as a bridge. So the instruction for the Madison Square Garden event flowed from this belief. It must be organized in a manner that its sound would reverberate not just in America and India, but across the world. That, I'm sure you all agree, that it certainly did. For most part, because of the intensity of the Prime Minister's connect to the audience was so manifest, and thereby began a unique experiment on popular diplomacy that has been the envy of many other leaders and countries. It has also boosted the pride of the diaspora wherever he has spoken. अब जो मेडिसन स्क्वायर गार्डन से जो शुरू हुआ, इवन टुडे, लास्ट मंथ हम लोग यूरोप गए और प्रधानमंत्री वहाँ जो उनकी जो कम्युनिटी मीटिंग जो हुई, एक जर्मनी में हुई, आपने देखा होगा टेलीविजन में, और एक डेनमार्क में हुई, और डेनमार्क के प्रधानमंत्री खुद आए उस इवेंट के लिए, और उन्होंने कहा मुझे कि ये तो जो कनेक्ट जो आप एक किस्म, उन्होंने कहा ये इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जो है ऑडियंस और मोदी जी के बीच में, उन्होंने कहा ये तो बस बाकी पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स हम तो बस इसका तो सपना ही देख सकते हैं, और इसका जो प्रभाव जो बाकी पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स पे होता है उसका तो मैं आपको बस बता ही नहीं सकता कि अभी जो है दुनिया में एक तो है भारत की प्रतिष्ठा है, एक मोदी जी की नेतृत्व है, पर कहीं पॉलिटिकल जो दुनिया के जो पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स जो हैं उन सब में देखा है और उन सब में ये चर्चा होती है कि मोदी जी का कनेक्ट जो है वो तो एक कुछ अलग लेवल का कनेक्ट है, और मैं साफ कहूँ वो तो सब लोग बड़े एनवियस हैं इस मामले में, वो तो चाहते हैं कि खुद उनका ऐसा कुछ हो। अब तीसरी बात जो है वो गुजरात के बारे में, और मैंने इस चैप्टर में, और ये मेरे अनुभव मेरे असेसमेंट से मैंने लिखा है कि जो उन्होंने केंद्र सरकार में किया है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो हैं उनके गुजरात के अनुभव से आया है, और ये मैं इसके बारे में ये लिखता हूँ कि वन ऑफ द to understand the policies of Prime Minister Modi, it is necessary to go back to Chief Minister Modi. By initiating the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summits, he created a platform to encourage the flow of resources, technology, and best practices. Visits and interactions were at its core, and they were clearly a very valuable learning experience for him. Whether it was partners like Japan, Canada, Denmark, South Korea, or Kenya, or sectors like automobiles, railways, pharma, renewables, chemicals, he showed as Chief Minister of Gujarat that the world would respond to right policies. And that is why if you look at Vibrant Gujarat is one of the most successful platforms even now to actually get foreign investment into India, to get technology collaborations. And I am very clear after attending many Vibrant Gujarat summits that this gathering of entrepreneurs and investors has actually also helped Gujarat to think internationally. The influence of Gujarat, of the Gujarat period on Prime Minister Modi's prime ministership is also visible in other ways. As Chief Minister, he was a proponent, a very enthusiastic proponent of renewable energy. In fact, और वो खुद कहते भी हैं, मुझे भी कहा है, बाहर भी जाकर कहते हैं उन्होंने at that time he authored a book called Convenient Action in response to the perception. There was a book by Al Gore called Inconvenient Truth. So Prime Minister Modi as Chief Minister actually wrote a counter to it. And being Modi, he also established a department within the state government on climate change as far back as 2009. And I think he was the first government anywhere in the world to actually have a government department on climate change. Now, if you fast forward to COP21, जो Paris में जो climate change पे जो meeting हुई थी, he now became the prime mover to establish the International Solar Alliance. His experience with the earthquake, the Bhuj earthquake, also led him to propose another very important global initiative today called the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. So to me, it is very revealing that the global issues that Prime Minister Modi took up, terrorism, climate change, disasters, all these issues were confronted by him squarely when he was Chief Minister. And this long stint heading the state, to my mind, has given his foreign policy a very different perspective, a federal perspective. So let me move then to a very different subject. And this is a subject actually about Modi ji himself. Now, आप सब जानते हैं कि he has been around the world. But it's a very interesting experience to go around the world with a person who has been around the world. So I remember in 2014, now I'm reading from my book, during his 2014 visit to the United States, we were discussing the instincts of Americans. कि Americans, माने average American क्या सोचता है? I told him, I said, sir, I've traveled across the country in my younger days. So only to discover that he had actually been to more states than me. But now, this is Modi. So he tells me, but you went by car or by air. I went by a Greyhound bus. So that is the difference. Similarly, his long-standing acquaintance in diaspora societies, actually he had developed a very early interest in foreign affairs. And I have seen him talk about Mauritius, Guyana, Suriname, and everywhere he knew people. He knew people. I have been in foreign policy for 41 years. There are countries he knew many more people than I did. And particularly he has done a lot of travel in Nepal. And he would have insights, he would have factoids about that society. And slowly, it actually dawned on me that I am schooled in orthodox diplomacy. He has approached the same landscape from a socio-political and ground perspective. It is said that travel broadens the mind, and certainly in the case of Prime Minister, it has been a very important part of his global awareness. And he is what we call autodidactic. माने somebody जो अपने अनुभव से सीखते हैं. You learn not by coming to MS University. You learn in the University of Life. So he is autodidactic by nature, and this curiosity, जिज्ञासा जो उनमें है, to continuously comprehend the world in a better place. So now imagine the fun of traveling with Prime Minister Modi. He does not do conventional sightseeing. And we slowly discovered that. I saw accompanying him that all the time his mind is on identifying, absorbing best practices. अच्छा वो है, ये कैसे करते हैं, but the main thing is, how do I take it back to my country? So we went to a railway station in Berlin. I remember that. After that, straight it fed into his modernization plans at home. We went on a bullet train in Japan. Now that has ended up project in Gujarat. We spent to many convention centers, and each one of them he noted something, and today we are in the middle of building a convention center in Delhi, which I promise you will be the pride of India. We went to a cleaned up river in South Korea, in Seoul. And that actually gave him a lot of ideas about Namami Gange, about rejuvenating the Ganga. We went and saw public housing in Singapore. And today, जब हम PM आवास योजना की बात करते हैं, we saw what housing can do in a place like Singapore. So, to my mind, when I look at him, and I'm also a student of history and in a way political science, I'm reminded actually of people in Japan. Now I'm reminded of people in Japan partly because I study history, but also because my wife is Japanese. So many things remind me of Japan. So he reminds me of, Japan 150 years ago had a generation of very committed people. And the then Prime Minister of Japan actually, उस time plane तो थे नहीं, he went actually on a ship around the world for almost 1 year. And he came back with a list of things which he saw around the world and said, these things need to be made in Japan. So in some ways, traveling with Prime Minister Modi is like that all the time you are watching, you are looking, you are seeking, and you are thinking, how do I do something with this back home? My fifth point, all of you, of course, have heard of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. I will leave Sabka Prayas for a moment. But I want you to know, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas is also foreign policy. It is also diplomacy. तो जो हम घर में जो राजनीति में करते हैं, जो प्रगति के लिए करते हैं, हम कूटनीति में भी करते हैं. And I want to show you through examples. ये देश के बाहर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर में करना आसान नहीं है, क्योंकि अलग अलग दबाव जो हैं वो अलग अलग देशों से आते हैं. हाउ डू यू रिकंसाइल द प्रेशर ऑफ डिफरेंट कंट्रीज? एंड टू डू दैट, आई एम नाउ गोइंग बैक टू माई बुक. इट इज अ कॉम्पिटिटिव एंड डाइवर्स वर्ल्ड, एंड इट इज नेसेसरी टू नेविगेट multiple interests in a very effective manner, in the most effective manner. Now, you can do this, I will come to the English part, but I would say in Hindi, डर के कर सकते हैं. That अरे किसी को, don't annoy anybody, चलो, let me not. You can do this with trepidation and timidity, or you can practice it with confidence and skill. Now you know which road Prime Minister Modi took. So, on his part, Prime Minister Modi perceives opportunities more readily than others and is very confident about exploiting them. For example, he did 2 back-to-back trilateral meetings, three presidents, prime ministers, in Argentina, in Buenos Aires in 2018. And that told its own tale. One was with Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, and Donald Trump. And the other was with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. So, and even at the level of region, he has overcome this dichotomy, this duvidha, कि भाई इनके साथ जाएं तो उनके साथ क्या होगा. And I give an example. Israel and Palestine, Iran and Gulf kingdoms, Japan and Korea. He has gone to both, he has managed both, he has excellent relations. He has better relations than people before him who said, अगर आप Israel जाएंगे तो Palestine will get angry. Or if you go to Gulf, Iran will get angry. Or if you go to Japan, Korea will get angry. So what Prime Minister has managed is actually through confidence and through his personality. How do you actually bridge this? So, he's actually done separate visits to Israel and Palestine. And each one he said very clearly, I am going there, I will not go to the other country. Because we don't like other people. We don't like people who come to India and say, Acha, main Pakistan bhi jaunga. So similarly, he said, look, others will also have a view. The Israel visit actually also transcended our vote bank politics. You all know why for many years we were not able to have normal relations with Israel the way. And actually, Prime Minister Modi was the first Indian Prime Minister in history to visit Israel. And I had the privilege of going with him. Now, here is the interesting bit. The Prime Minister actually transited Arab airspace on his way to Israel. And when he went to Palestine, Ramallah, he was actually escorted by Israeli helicopters. So you please see how with confidence and with, you can say only Narendra Modi can get this done. Huh? Now the same thing he did in Sri Lanka, which was, he was able to go to Colombo, to Anuradhapura, to Jaffna. So my point to you is that those who follow Indian diplomacy under Narendra Modi will be able to see that he does not go by precedent. He goes with his instinct, he goes with his confidence, and that is today why foreign policy is very different. Now, I've been here last 2 days in the company of very, very close friends, interesting people. And one question which always people ask me, Acha, what is it like traveling? When traveling, not kya dekha, but everybody hears, are wo sote nahi hai, 4 ghante sote hain, it must be very tough. So I actually make a reference to it in my book, saying that Prime Minister Modi has been as demanding of the Indian system. I actually did not have courage to write and of his ministers. Huh? So demanding of the Indian system as he has been unsparing of himself. His visits abroad are legendary for his punishing schedule. And the one which to my mind ranks toughest was a 5-day trip. We started in the morning, we went to Afghanistan. We reached Qatar that day, spent one night, did our job in Qatar. Next day we were on the plane, raat ko plane mein bitaya. Went to Switzerland, did our job, got on a plane, spent another night on a plane, went to United States, spent one day there, went from there to Mexico the next day, got on a plane, spent one more night on a plane and came back to India. Huh? So it was a 5-day trip to 5 countries, 3 nights on a plane. And these habits even today continue. So the last trip which we just did, हम लोग आपने देखा होगा, we were in Japan. So we arrived in Japan, again, 1 night on a plane, 1 night on the ground, next night on a plane back. Total ground time 40 hours. इसमें से आप 4 घंटे नींद के लिए निकाल लीजिए, 36 hours, 23 meetings in 36 hours. And I will tell you the icing on this. We arrive in the morning, flying all night, and there is a cabinet meeting as soon as we arrive. So this is what Prime Minister Modi is about. But this is my chapter which I wanted to read out to you. But I wanted to read one other thing for you. And this is a piece which is written by our badminton star, P.V. Sindhu. And she asked this question, that why is it that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is able to connect with the youth? That's why I wanted to read it out to all of you. Because, and I'm reading her, so please don't think this is me saying it. She says, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is among the very few undisputed youth icons of India. But he is not young. He does not come from the domain of sports or cinema or popular cultures, which is common. Then she says this. In fact, he's in politics. It's his lifelong activity, and this is rarely associated with youth icons, which means generally youth don't like politicians. And so she says, what is the secret? What is the one defining character that we most associate youth with? Her answer is fire in the belly. Fire in the belly, the audacity to change the situation rather than compromise with it. And that she uses both a Hindi and English sentence. She says, hoga kaisa nahi. Hoga kaise nahi. To me, this is what Modi ji is about. So she has a lot of other things. I really recommend that, risk-taking. And another one very interesting thing, because this morning many of us were here on the same forum. We were here in the same forum on a program which was about लाभार्थीज, जो हमारे जो योजना जो हैं उनके लाभार्थियों के साथ प्राइम मिनिस्टर का वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग हो रहा था. He was speaking in Shimla as well. And she says about Prime Minister Modi, he could have been daunted by all the problems facing the country, the long pending chronic problems that India has faced since independence. And he could have given up any hopes of solving them in the near term. After all, not every school had toilets, not every village was electrified, not every household had bank accounts, not everybody was covered by sanitation, not everybody was covered by insurance. But he chose not to do so. So I cannot think of a more powerful statement from someone who's far away from the world of politics. You know, we are involved with the government, we see it, we are involved with politics. We may not be partial, हमारी अपनी bias होंगी. But to me, a statement like this from a young person, an optimistic person, someone who carries our flag out there, that is something which really touched my heart. I thought today was an occasion to share that also with you. So I really thank you. You have been very attentive. I think I have a few minutes to take some questions. मैं खड़े खड़े ले लूँ या बैठे? हाँ, okay. I'd be very happy to take any questions in English or Hindi. Also Gujarati, but Jitu Bhai will have to translate.
Great, thank you so much, Honorable Minister, sir. And now it's an interaction session. Yes, definitely. Give him a mic, please. वहाँ पे, हाँ ठीक है.
Hello. University of Baroda. First of all, congratulations and thank you for sparing your valuable time and speaking to us today. We have around 210 students from 55 countries in MS University of Baroda, and many of them are eager to speak to you. Since we have been talking about nationalism and we're talking about how we can increase our commerce by increasing and improving and also connecting with the culture. My question is, we have many tie-ups with the SAARC countries, but our African students have questions related to what policies are we taking for developing African higher education. Like we have Fulbright Nehru, we have Shasti Canadian. What role and what help can the Indian government do for the Africans? Thank you.
answer very briefly because I know there will be other people also. You see, for many years we have a long tradition of cooperation with Africa. African students have been coming to India for many years. Now, like in many things, when Prime Minister Modi came to office, he looked, अच्छा भाई आप क्या कर रहे हो, मुझे उनको समीक्षा करने की आदत तो है, तो he looked at what we were doing with Africa and he said, frankly, this is not enough. We are India. This is not the level of what it should be with Africa. So we did a big scale. We did a big scale up, but we did a big scale up both in the optics and the politics as well as the actual cooperation. In the optics, normally we had something every 2 years we would meet called India-Africa Summit Forum. We would have 3-4 African leaders come. But under Prime Minister Modi, he invited all 54. 41 of them came to India at the level of President and Prime Minister. And we made a commitment that we will give scholarships to 50,000 African students. Now, unfortunately, I'm only doing the other things also. We did projects, say green growth, health, etc. But I'm only talking of scholarship. Unfortunately, we had in between 2 years, which were lost because of COVID. Even in this period, we have started something called E-Vidya Bharati, which will, so that there is distance education with universities in Africa. But out of 50,000, we have so far kept our commitment, I think, to 34,000. That is, from the time Narendra Modi became Prime Minister of India, 34,000 African students have got scholarships and education in India. And I can tell you, Africa is something which is very close to his heart. If you see his tenure, and again 2 years went because of COVID, very few Prime Ministers have visited Africa with a frequency, and not just him. He has told all the ministers to go, during his time, President has gone, Vice President has gone. So actually today there is a very, very big change happening with Africa, but for this we need the cooperation of your university and all other universities. We would like to send, encourage African students to come to good institutions, and I want all of you students to remember that in engaging them, in educating them, you are actually very much a part of our image and our diplomacy in Africa.
Hello, good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Twinkle Doshi from KPGU University, Deputy Director of Disaster Management Cell. My question is regarding brain drain. I'm in this academic since last 20 years, and I've witnessed many students who are rushing to the USA, Canada, nowadays to the Germany. So how to stop it?
See, I don't agree with you. I want to say very frankly. I don't like the term brain drain, because what my experience, and particularly in this period, Indians who go abroad do not forget India. Indians who go abroad do not cut their connection with India. In fact, many Indians who go abroad actually from abroad find ways of contributing to India and doing things to India. See, we are a democracy. We cannot do things with some non-democratic societies. I cannot tell people, you will not emigrate abroad, you will not visit abroad. Then I will turn my country into a prison. I don't want to do that. For me, I put the problem differently. I believe we in India have a challenge. The challenge is, how do I provide opportunities? How do I make it attractive for people to go abroad and come back, or to collaborate from abroad? It is not something we should ask them to do. If we can change things at home, I assure you many of them will do, and I can see that. I work in some areas connected with defense and with science and with applied science in many areas. I actually see people. There are, even in government today, we have people who have left very high-paying jobs. I don't want to take their names. Really top companies, people in the field of semiconductor. people in the field of 5G, people, in fact, even in disaster resilience, people in the field of aero engines who have got good jobs abroad, and because they found there is an opportunity. Today, drone policy, for example, drone policy offers a lot of opportunity today for people dealing with that. The startup policy is offered. So our effort is that the magnets should bring them back also. There should not only be one magnet, there should be two magnets.
गुड इवनिंग सर।
हमको तुमने पहला बुक आप ही हुए पहले से, तो आप उसमें से पढ़ के आ सकते हैं, लेकिन नरेंद्र भाई ની યાત્રા તો તમે બધા જોઈએ જ છે, આ બુકમાં એ જ છે। તમારા પોતાના પ્રશ્નો હોઈ શકે, એનો કોઈ વાંધો નહીં, પણ નરેન્દ્રભાઈની જે યાત્રા છે દેશ અને રાજ્યને તમે જે રીતે જોયો છે એમાં તમને કઈ પ્રશ્ન ઉપસ્થિત થતો હોય તો પણ તમે પૂછી શકો છો।
हेलो, गुड इवनिंग सर।
Namaskar, sir.
Sir, my name is Krunal Maheshwari. I am from Faculty of Law. I wanted to thank you for practicing an independent foreign policy for national interest overseas. And I wanted to ask that do India still needs to abide to treaties and agreements signed between a democratic government and a non-democratic government like Indus Water Treaty or Panchsheel Agreement or Tashkent Agreement?
You know, first of all, you don't need to thank me for independent policy. I tell you why. I ask you a counter question. We are sitting in Gujarat. Many of you have seen the Prime Minister longer than I have. Do you think we will follow any policy other than independent policy? Has the idea even crossed your mind?
No,
For me, it is very simple. I can, you know, he radiates independence. He radiates confidence. So I am very, look, it is a very tough world. You know, it is a tough world. There is a conflict in Ukraine. There are pressure points. There are, you know, issues today between China and the United States. I mean, there are a lot of issues out there. But I don't think anybody who has seen the Prime Minister, knows the Prime Minister, senses the Prime Minister, will believe that he will ever do anything other than uphold our national interest in the strongest possible terms, which gives me, as I said from the beginning, gives me great clarity as Foreign Minister. I know exactly what I have to do. I don't even have to ask sometimes, because I get that vibes. It's very clear. Huh? Now, your question, do you have to, you know, stay with agreement? Look, it's a very difficult question to answer. You are put it कि वो democratic हैं, हम democratic हैं, वो नहीं हैं या कम हैं. At the end of the day, generally people, countries, like people, you keep contracts. You keep contracts because if you break a contract today, the next time people will hesitate to do a contract. So somewhere it is your own long-term interest. You have to be very, very responsible. So in diplomacy, we take this, you know, even as a person, I'll be very careful. But definitely as a country, I'll be super careful. I would not do anything which will cause my credibility. Because finally, you know, I've done more than 40 years in foreign policy and diplomacy. There are two things to my mind which actually determines, you know, how successful you are. One is chemistry. How do you relate to a person? One is credibility. If you have chemistry and credibility, I can tell you across the world, people will.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. I am Dr. Sunita Sharma from Faculty of Management Studies, MS University. Sir, एक चैप्टर पढ़ रही थी मिस्टर दीपेंद्र मिश्रा, नो शैडो बिटवीन आइडिया एंड रियलिटी, और आज आपका वक्तव्य सुना तो एक प्रश्न ये उठा है मन में कि महाभारत के युद्ध में कृष्ण और अर्जुन जिनकी वजह से महाभारत का युद्ध जीता गया। मैं ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जब आप और मोदी सर जब होते हैं तो इसमें कृष्ण कौन होता है और अर्जुन कौन होता है? और दूसरा ऐसा प्रश्न ये था कि वो पूरा चैप्टर पढ़ने के बाद में ऐसा लगता है इतनी सारी योजनाएं होती हैं और उन योजनाओं को कार्यान्वित करने के लिए मेरे ख्याल से सारा तंत्र लग जाता है। तो ऐसी वो क्या खास चीज है जो आप सबको उस एक दिशा के लिए प्रेरित करती है? तो ये दो चीजों पर अगर आप अपना प्रकाश डालें तो अच्छा है।
जो देखिए जो श्री कृष्ण है वो तो साबित है, इसमें कोई शक की बात तो है नहीं। अब मुझे लगता है अगर आप अर्जुन ढूंढेंगे तो इसमें कुछ और लोग हैं, आप भी जानते हैं, मैं भी जानता हूँ। हम लोग जो है महाभारत के बजाय रामायण की तरफ जाते हैं और वहाँ सेवा का भाव तो आप जानते हैं किसके साथ जोड़ना है। तो दूसरा जो आपका प्रश्न जो है कि इतने सारे योजनाएं हैं, आज सचमुच आज एक बार आज का कार्यक्रम अगर आप देखें और ये YouTube में जरूर होगा, ये नहीं है कि एक कार्यक्रम का एक लाभार्थी, बल्कि जो उस वर्ग के हैं जिनको माने सरकार से सपोर्ट चाहिए, वो तो हर स्कीम के लिए माने तड़पते हैं ना, कि जिनके घर में पानी नहीं है, जिनके घर में बिजली नहीं है, ये तो स्वाभाविक होगा कि उनके घर में गैस सिलेंडर भी नहीं होगा, या उनको महामारी के समय में अन्न योजना की जरूरत पड़ेगी। तो एक मैं कहूँगा कि प्रशासन के लिए एक चुनौती जो है कि 20-25 अगर योजनाएं हैं, बिल्कुल आपने अब तक माने क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल ठीक, इन सबको कैसे माने टारगेट की तरफ मैक्सिमम इम्पैक्ट मैक्सिमम रिलीफ के लिए लिखें। और मैं कहूँगा कि 8 साल के बाद इस एक्सरसाइज में हम बहुत सफल रहे कि आज जो हम लोग जो सुन रहे थे कि कोई था जिन्होंने कहा कि मैं 4 स्कीम की लाभ लेती हूँ, कोई 5 का लेता है, और ये नेचुरल है और ये अच्छा होना भी चाहिए, क्योंकि ये योजना के कॉन्सेप्ट में नहीं रही। एक समय था सबके मन में था कि ये जो सोशल वेलफेयर स्टेट जो कहते हैं ना इंग्लिश में, सोशल वेलफेयर स्टेट जो है ये डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज के लिए। अब मोदी जी ने साबित किया है कि अगर आप टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करें, माने रास्ते में लीकेज ना हो, अगर आपकी नीयत साफ है, अगर आपकी दूरदृष्टि है, अगर आपको प्रशासन में सुशासन ला सकते, जो सपने जो डेवलप जो विकसित देश के लिए थे, वो विकासशील देश के सपने भी हो सकते और इन सपनों की डिलीवरी भी हो सकती। ये आपके इवेंट में बहुत क्लियरली दिखा।
Very good evening, sir.
Youth gets preference. Please.
Yeah. Very good evening, sir. Being an Indian Foreign Service aspirant, it's a matter of great pride for me to stand here and interact with you. So my question is, we recently joined IEPF, and it's neither binding nor it provides any benefits, substantive benefits to its member nations. So how we as a growing economy are looking at it, and what according to you can be its future prospects that can help us achieve our $5 trillion aim and go even beyond that?
It is like this. ये प्रश्न जो उन्होंने पूछा, ये एक नई व्यवस्था है जिसको इंडो पैसिफिक इकोनॉमिक फोरम कहते हैं। ये जब प्रधानमंत्री जी जापान गए थे तो ये क्वाड देश जो हैं उनके उस मीटिंग के लिए गए थे। तो इसमें करीब 12 या 13 देश जो हैं जो इंडो पैसिफिक के देश हैं, उन्होंने मिलकर ये डिक्लेरेशन साइन किया। So answer to you is this. See, it is different. People say that it is, doesn't give you market access. It is, first of all, it is not yet there. It is still being negotiated. Secondly, it's a new way of doing things. It is not an attempt to replicate an FTA. So, because today, for various reasons, many countries will not do free trade agreements. So, I think don't be taken in by the fact it is different. This is like somebody saying, you know, this hockey game doesn't look like cricket, therefore it is not a good game. It's not a cricket game, it's a different game. So, but you have to be patient also for it to unfold. It will take 1 year to unfold.
Hello, sir.
I'm a retired IPS officer. During my student days, I had some background of political science and international law and diplomacy. See, first of all, I must congratulate your government and you in person that you have been able to check evil designs of China on our border. Effectively so far. But the question is ringing in my mind, with so much of image we have got now, are we doing something to teach them a lesson that they go back where they were? I did listen to you something about this yesterday, but unless it's not to be disclosed here, I won't insist. But I hope we are doing something to see that we have a good image that world that China is not bullying us.
No, to be frank, I don't think that is the perception in the world. The perception in the world is that what China did in 2020 was wrong. That people understand that China did not follow agreements that they had with us. I think most of the world understands that who is right and who is wrong. But what do? I think the answer you can see, which is that on the ground, I think the Indian armed forces are deployed to protect our country. And where, I am concerned and my department is concerned, our job is to negotiate with the Chinese and to convince them that this is not in their interest and that it is better to not attempt to change unilaterally what is done from their side. Yeah. So let us leave it at that, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Ashish Kotodia from the Department of Political Science. In the beginning of your speech, you mentioned that Prime Minister Modi told you that you should visit the SAARC nations. And he clearly said to you, but while visiting these SAARC countries, but one thing's keeping in mind that...
No, I know that chapter.
Mutual consent. But my question is, would you agree with me that the current state dispensation policy from the non-aligned movement to the multi-aligned movement will be in the interest of India? Is it the bilateralism, multilateralism, or the trilateralism? Because see what happened on the Russian-Ukrainian war and Afghanistan. It's India's abstentionist policy, abstain from the voting policy. Don't you think it's not in the interest of India?
Many questions I will answer very simply. See, every country will make a choice, should make a choice, which is in their interest. Now, you ended with Ukraine. We have, first of all, a clear position on Ukraine. We are against the fighting in Ukraine. Okay? Prime Minister has himself spoken to President Putin. He has spoken to the Ukrainian President Zelensky. And the main message which we have sent is we are against the fighting. We will support any attempt to have a ceasefire. In the beginning, the reason was also because many students were there. But now, even without the students, we actually are for an end to the fighting. Because if the fighting doesn't end, the talking can never get serious. Okay, so that is the first point. The point which you made about, SAARC and, where we are. See, for us, everybody wants to get along with their neighbor. Who does not? Each one of you, your next person in the hostel, you want to be on good terms. Next person on the street, you want to be on the good terms. But if you have one country which does not follow the basic rules, and somebody comes to your house at night and attacks you, somebody disturbs the peace and feels it is their right to do so, you cannot accept it beyond a point. So today our attempt is on each of the challenges we face, think the challenge for ourselves, look at it from our, there is a term, India first. Now, what happened, people sometimes think India first mane hamara hit hai, dunya bhaad mein jaye. That is the wrong way. India first means look at the world with India at Indian interest at the center, but work with the world. The world is our friend. I can tell you, go anywhere in the world. People like Indians. People respect Indians. Under Prime Minister Modi, our stock has gone up. The general, there is a good feel about us in the world, unlike some other countries. I won't take any names. So I want you to understand, we should use that feeling. We should use that feeling to actually also develop India. That is why, for me, when I see FDI come in, when I see foreign collaboration, when I see bullet train, when I see, something in environment, koi freight corridor banna, koi infrastructure project, these are good ways. We must use foreign policy to grow.
A very warm welcome, sir.
Sir, this side.
થોડી સમયની મર્યાદા છે એકાદું લાસ્ટ લઈએ.
So may we have a last question from here? This side, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Very brief.
Yeah. I am student of Masters of Commerce from MSU. My question is...
Keep your mic closer, please.
Yeah. The world has become a global village now. So any event which happens in any part of the world, it affects us all. So on the other hand, the Prime Minister is working tirelessly to tie stronger bonds.
Question.
So my question is, how on policy front are we approaching this paradox?
Okay. So I will take two more questions very quickly.
Hello, sir. Good evening. I'm Professor Neeti Chopra, and I'm the head and dean in Faculty of Journalism and Communication. So my quick question is that in all your travels overseas, in context of the chapter written by Nandan Nilekani, sir, is there any particular project or process which your counterparts in other countries are looking to emulate?
Any Indian project?
Yes, any Indian project or digital process particularly, they're looking to emulate in their countries.
Right.
Sir, a question from Afghanistan.
Okay.
I'm Hikmatullah Yusufi, doing MSW in MSU. My question is, sir, after the Taliban took over the power in Afghanistan, India, although we have a very close friendship with India, but visas for the students and all the other benefit or the relations that we had from India.
Question.
Okay. The question is that what is the plan and policy of India toward Afghanistan right now?
Okay. So three very quick questions. Globalization, what does the world want to see emulate, and what is our Afghan policy?
So one more question if...
Sir. Okay, please.
So, good evening, Honorable Minister of External Affairs of India. I would like to thank you. My name is Kassiama from Ivory Coast.
Okay.
I'm a student at the Maharaja Sayajiro University, Department of Banking and Insurance. So, first of all, I would like to thank you for the policies that the PM Narendra Modi is taking toward Africa. As you said, many scholarships are going on.
Question.
My question is, we are calling people from Africa to India. That's very great. And I want to know if the local authorities are helping the universities to make sure that the students coming to India are comfortable. Something is to call them and something is to make sure that they are comfortable in India. Thank you.
सर मैं प्रदर्शनी कला विभाग का छात्र हूँ. सर मेरा आपसे क्वेश्चन है, भारतीय सिनेमा आर्थिक दृष्टिकोण से देखा जाए तो अन्य सिनेमा की दृष्टि से, वो चाइना हो, जापानी हो या
प्रशांत भाई,
वो मतलब अपनी सहभागिता कैसे अदा कर रहा है भारतीय सिनेमा?
Very quickly.
Sir, I belong to
I have to finish, so let me go very quickly. Globalization. Look, globalization will have effect on all of us. Today, one of the biggest problems of the Ukraine conflict, people don't think like that. Food prices have gone up. Cooking oil prices have gone up. So, part of what Prime Minister is trying to do, he understands global situation can affect India. After all, even COVID came from outside. COVID affected us. And we could not stop it because people travel. So, today our policies have to deal with the dangers and the problems created, but take the benefit created by globalization, and that is what the Prime Minister is working very, very hard on. The second question about Nandan Nilekani's chapter. Yes, I think there is a lot of respect for what we have done digitally. People see our Aadhaar card project, people see how Jan Dhan Yojana has been done. So people actually see all these other yojanas which have taken place. I get people sometimes frankly don't believe us that we can actually do so many things on such a scale. The scale of every program is often the size of a country. So, but I would say particularly for us, digital, corona response, these have been two, and also renewable energy. These are three areas where people in the world are very, very impressed by what we are doing, would like to work with us. Our Afghan friend. See, we have been friends with Afghan people for a long time, and that friendship is evident by the fact that you are here with us today. But the problem is something happened in Afghanistan which we were not responsible for. And for us, we had to take some precautions because the situation was there. We have, after all, some also experiences which were not good in the past. So I think as a friend of India, as a friend of Afghan today, we would like to keep up the relationship. We are supplying wheat to Afghanistan, 50,000 tons. We have supplied vaccine to Afghanistan. We have supplied medicines. Even today, the best working hospital in Afghanistan is a hospital in Kabul built by India. And I can tell you, Prime Minister Modi himself has repeatedly told us, saying, look, forget politics for a moment. From humanitarian angle, look at Afghanistan and remember the people and keep that in mind. The last question which you had asked, look, first of all, I want to tell you, we value foreign students. For us, our universities are better, our country is better, our foreign policy is better when you people come here. We value all of you. We would like you to be comfortable, we would like you to be happy, we would like you to be successful. And I would say this, if any foreign student has any issue, I'm sure the university will take care of it. But I also want to say that from the foreign ministry side, we will always be keeping an eye. Because, in the current system, everybody, Prime Minister keeps eye on all of us also. So we also, always, it is good to watch what is happening on the ground. So please be assured that your welfare is very much our priority. Once again, I'm really, really happy that all of you took the time out. It is a great pleasure for me.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a curious and very ambitious crowd of MS University. Thank you so much.